Well, we have a real treat for you tonight. A retired CIA agent who was given the highest award from the CIA for exposing and taking down, I should say, taking down a network of a Pakistani scientist who was trying to sell nuclear secrets and weaponization of nuclear weapons to Iran. Um, Jim Lawler, retired CIA agent, is going to join us because we need to talk about what kind of a threat Iran poses. How do we finish the job since we're there? And how do we get rid of that nuclear material? Can we? Should we? What should we do? It's going to be wild to hear this man who literally is an expert with nuclear technology in the hands of Iran, stopping it, and what he knows and how to get that out of there. This is going to be a great treat. And so that's what we have on tap for tonight's show. Croc Talk with Chris Croc. First, this show is brought to you by IRSprob.com. That's IRSPROB.com, helping good people with IRS problems, specializing in IRS controversy, IRS audits, and tax planning strategy. Randy Martin is my CPA, and he has been for almost a decade now. It's just amazing how good of a job he does. If you have IRS problems or need a tax planner, then he is your guy, and he is the best. Without any further ado, let's talk to Jim Lawler, retired CIA agent. And Jim, welcome to the show, and I'm going to try to do you justice on my introduction, okay? And you can
Sounds good, Chris.
You can correct me if I'm wrong here. So here's the thing. First of all, to cut right to the chase, Jim is responsible for, as a CIA agent, taking down the Pakistani nuclear scientist A.Q. Khan, who was in the news a lot back in the day, who was going around, and we'll hear more from Jim, who can correct me if I'm wrong, but going around trying to sell nuclear secrets from the Pakistan had and the weaponization of nuclear materials, etc., to Iran and to all these highest bidders. There's a tremendous lesson to be learned on how we're handling Iran right now versus how we handled North Korea, for example. Jim is a prolific author. He's written 3 books, The Traitor's Tale, In the Twinkling of an Eye, and now Living Lies, which we'll talk about as well. His latest novel, all are available on Amazon Books, at Amazon.com, I should say. But let me give you the full introduction because it does him justice and it gives you the real background of the kind of caliber that Jim is. He's a noted speaker on the insider threat in government and industry. He served in the CIA for 25 years in operations as an operations officer and international post, chief of Counterproliferation Division's Special Activities Unit. Mr. Lawler, a member of the CIA's Senior Intelligence Service from 1998 until his retirement in 2005. He was a specialist in the recruitment of foreign spies. He went well over half his CIA career battling the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction as chief of the A.Q. Khan nuclear takedown team, which resulted in the disruption of the most dangerous nuclear weapons network in history. Mr. Lawler was the recipient of one of the CIA's Trailblazer Awards in 2007, marking the 60th anniversary of the CIA. In 2004, former Director of Counterintelligence George Tenet, Mr. Lawler sent Mr. Lawler a note which said, Jim, quote, what you and your team have achieved will rank up there as one of the most spectacular intelligence accomplishments in the history of the CIA. It occurred because of your exemplary leadership. Not only are we in the process of taking down a network, we're also in the process of disarming a country as a result of your fine work. With respect, George J. Tenet, and former DDCI director. What's DDCI, Jim Lawler? These
The
long
deputy
acronyms.
director, the deputy director of CIA.
Okay, Deputy Director of CIA. Thank you very much, sir. Former Deputy Director of CIA John McLaughlin noted the effort was the closest thing I've ever seen to a perfect intelligence operation. He also received the Director's Award from Director of Counterintelligence. Is that right?
Is Central Intelligence.
Thank you, Director of Central Intelligence. What do I know? That's why you're here. All these acronyms. That's almost as difficult as figuring out how to take down a nuclear network. From DCI George Tenet, the U.S. Intelligence Community HUMINT Collector of the Year Award, Human Intelligence, and the Donovan Award for the CIA's Deputy Director of Operations. I know I don't have to go that deep, but I want to because I want people to understand who we're talking to. So, Jim, thank you very much for your service to this country for decades. And thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Chris. Always a pleasure to be on your show.
First of all, I want to tell people I'm real proud of the fact that you're a friend of my dad's. You guys worked together. My dad retired in counterintelligence, and you speak very highly of him, and that's how I connected to you. And I'm
Don
grateful
was
for
one
you.
of our Don was one of our best counterintelligence officers, working for the Department of Energy's Office of Intelligence and Counterintelligence. And I got to know Don back around 2007 and have treasured that friendship.
Just want everybody to know, I just, you look back on your parents, and I'm so proud of my dad for his police work as a Chicago police officer, his work with the Federal Protective Service, and then, of course, counterintelligence, which is just huge. And to be a friend of yours and for you to say those nice things means a lot to me. So thank you, Jim, for being my dad's friend and being willing to come on the show.
Absolutely.
So let's talk Iran. Okay, first of all, you literally um, were responsible for stopping senior Pakistani scientist AQ Khan from selling nuclear secrets. He was going around and selling them to any country that wanted to pay him a lot of money so they could make nuclear bombs. Is that accurate?
That's correct. He took nuclear proliferation private. In the past, we'd always been concerned about country to country proliferation.
Yeah.
Some country selling to another rogue country nuclear technology. Well, Dr. Khan basically was running the Pakistani nuclear program, and he was a very narcissistic individual, and he took proliferation private for greed and for his own ego. And so he was in the process of selling nuclear weapons technology, a complete turnkey system to the Libyans, and he sold plans to the Iranians as well.
Wow. Is that how the Iranians had got to the point where they got to so they can develop, for example, right now 60% enriched uranium, 900 pounds roughly? Is that why they were able to produce weapons grade materials?
It certainly was the beginning of it. They got the designs for these very technically proficient, highly what they're called ultra centrifuges, which enrich uranium up to weapons grade. And Dr. Kahn had stolen that from the Urenco consortium in Europe, where he had been a contractor, and he basically brought those to Pakistan, and then he was selling those designs to countries such as Libya and Iran. And so, if it had not been for those centrifuge designs, Iran would not be anywhere near where it is today. Absolutely.
So you took down the network selling that, but they did get that intel too. For obvious, we obviously know got that to Iran, which is how they're able to make weapons grade material.
That's correct. I mean, once the designs are out, you can't go and, like in a Man in Black, you can't erase their minds as to what they know. So he had already sold the designs and the technology to these countries. And so the cat was out of the bag. And they've got this. And let's face it too, the Iranians are smart people. We're not talking about some third or fourth world country that has a bunch of people, that are primitive. These people, thousands of years ago, Chris, when your relatives and my relatives were still painting their faces, these people were designing entire fields of mathematics. So
Right.
these are not stupid people. They're very smart people. And so Dr. Khan was selling designs to a talented group of people in Iran and Libya. In fact, the Iranians were much more technically capable than the Libyans.
That doesn't surprise me for what I know. Very educated populace, Iran, and like you said, very smart people. All right, so Jim, what do you surmise as far as like how much does about 900 pounds of 60% enriched uranium sound about right from what you know, open source or whatever you want to call it, as far as
Well,
what they
yes,
have?
from open source. Of course, what we don't know is what we don't know. And we're depending on the International Atomic Energy Agency's monitoring and things. And my big fear has always been that they may have a covert program that they're not showing to the international inspectors, that they allow the inspectors to come in and see some things and not see other things. And you can't prove a negative. You can't prove that there's not something else there. But let's just take the roughly 900 pounds that they've got. Now you say, well, 60% highly enriched uranium. That's not really right up to weapons grade. And it's hard to define weapons grade. People sometimes will say, well, it has to be 90%. No, it actually doesn't have to be 90%. If it's less than 90%, you just need more of it. For instance, our
Wow.
little boy weapon, the little boy weapon that
Yes.
destroyed Hiroshima,
Yes.
was the average enrichment was only about 87 or 88%. And
Wow.
you just have to have more material if you have a lesser degree of enrichment. But let's go back to where 60% enrichment. And you think, well, they still got to go another, 29 or 30%. And you think, well, that's challenging. In fact, it's not. By the time you get to 60% highly enriched uranium, you've already done 99% of the separative work that's taken, separating that uranium 235 isotope from the heavier isotopes of uranium. The U-235 isotope is the one you want, the fissile isotope that you want, because there's several isotopes of uranium. And fortunately for all of us, only 0.7% of all natural uranium is U-235. And so they use these ultracentrifuges to separate this gaseous form of uranium hexafluoride, a compound, a
Hmm.
gas, and they then want to enrich it up to 88, 89, 90%. But it really is not going to take very long. In fact, I've read that if they just had a cascade of maybe about 175 of their current state of the art centrifuges, they could basically enrich the 60% uranium to weapons grade within about 25 days. And you'd have enough with that 441 kilograms or 900 pounds of highly enriched uranium to produce somewhere between maybe 8 and 10 nuclear weapons. Now, let me put this in perspective. These nuclear weapons, at least if it's the same design that A.Q. Khan was selling to the Libyans, and I assume it's at least that, it was capable of what we call a 15 kiloton yield. That means it would be the yield of 15,000 tons of TNT. And I'll
Wow.
put that number in perspective for you. Back in 1996, I believe, is when the Oklahoma Federal Building was blown up
Yeah.
by those two terrorists. You remember Timothy McVeigh and his
Yes.
his colleague, and I think they killed about 165 people. They had a fuel air explosive in that pickup truck that was equivalent to about 1.5 tons of TNT. So we're
Wow.
talking 10,000 times more than what blew up the federal building
Wow.
in Oklahoma City. 10,000 times.
Wow.
And that yield, I mean, that Hiroshima bomb killed 140,000 people in 1945. So this is nothing to sneeze at.
What do you think they have right now, and what do you think their capabilities are right now, nuclear speaking, for Iran?
Well, after the attack last June and then the recent bombardment of their facilities, they don't, I mean, well, fortunately for us, they're under a lot, tons and tons of earth, at least what we know. Now that assumes we know where all the material is. I mean,
Right.
we're pretty sure that there's some at Isfahan, there's some at Natanz,
Right.
and there's probably some at this other site called Fordow.
Yeah.
But we're not 100% sure where all this material is. And that's what scares me is that we really don't know. So when people talk about going in and seizing the material, my first
Yes.
question is, do we know where it is? And I don't know that we do. I mean, I would hope that my organization, the CIA, or that the Israeli Mossad maybe has pinpointed where this stuff is. But that's a big question. Where is it? And, so and not only where is it, how far down deep is it?
Right.
People like to talk about, let's send a special operations group. Some of these,
Right.
let's send in the SEAL Team 6 or some special operators to seize this material.
Right.
I guarantee you, you and I and nobody else would want to be on this team.
No.
This team is going to take a lot of casualties. I mean, you're talking about probably having to, again, if we knew where it is, you'd have to have some kind of road grading equipment to dig that stuff up. Now, would you want to be a bulldozer operator with people shooting at you? I don't
No.
I
No.
don't think so. And I mean, under tons and tons and tons of earth, because we were dropping those, the largest bombs in our arsenal on these places and collapse these tunnels. Could it be recovered? Yeah, it can be recovered under peacetime, but we would have to have a perimeter around that thing, probably 10 miles wide.
Right.
And then people would be constantly looking over their shoulder at, for the possibility of drones and missiles and everything else coming in. So let's say you get down and you get to the thing and you recover this stuff. Now, it is probably in a gaseous form, as I said earlier on the program, uranium hexafluoride. Now, let me tell you something about this gas. It is already nasty because it's radioactive from the uranium. But the
Right.
nasty part about it is, in fact, the fluorine compound that's bonded to it. Fluorine is one of the most corrosive gases, period. I mean,
Mm,
it etches glass. It's that corrosive.
mm.
So you're talking about some of the nastiest stuff on Earth is this radioactive uranium hexafluoride in these cylinders. And that's assuming these cylinders are still intact and not collapsed. For
Right.
all we know, they may have collapsed and that gas may have permeated through the bedrock. I don't know.
Right.
Now you have one other major problem, and that's something called a criticality problem.
Okay.
That means when you put nuclear material that's that highly enriched together, it starts to spontaneously fission. Now, it won't blow up, probably, but there will be this blue flash of radiation and it will irradiate everything in the proximity. So I can't imagine being part of that special forces team trying to recover these things, even under
So
peaceful conditions. Let's say peace is declared and we have to go
right.
in and get this stuff. It would be nasty then.
So, and folks just joining us, Jim Lawler, retired CIA. His latest novel, Living Lies, available on Amazon, as well as his previous ones, in the Twinkling of an Eye, and The Traitor's Tale, all great books. So let me ask you this. Do you believe that Iran? Do you believe that when Iran sat down for the negotiations before Operation Epic Fury, do you believe what Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff told the president, that indeed they said, first thing they said was, we have enough enriched uranium to make 11 nuclear bombs? Do you believe that they said something like that right off the top, from what you know?
I didn't recall them saying that, but I believe they probably have that much material. Yeah, I mean, if they said it, then actually I do believe that they have. If that 441 kilograms or 900 pounds of highly enriched uranium, yeah, that would produce around 8, 9, 10 bombs. Depending on again the yield that you wanted and how sophisticated their design is.
Do,
So yeah, I
do you
believe
believe
that.
they? Do you believe they Iran unequivocally wants to have a nuclear bomb so they can either wipe Israel and us off the earth, and usher in the 12th Imam and all the apocalyptic stuff, or do you believe
No,
they?
no, I really don't. I mean, let's face it. Iran lives in a tough neighborhood. They're
Yep.
surrounded by countries that don't like them.
Right.
So, and they've actually, if you want to look geopolitically, if they look across the sea to North Korea, that has proven nuclear weapons and quite
Yes.
a growing arsenal of it, and they look at that and they say, well, everybody respects North Korea. And then they look at Libya, where Gaddafi actually gave up the nuclear weapons
Right.
thanks to what my team did. And guess what? Gaddafi's dead, and he was overthrown. And so the lesson that they might learn was nuclear weapons is our whole card. That's what we need to have to preserve the regime. Now, do I think that the average Iranian wants nuclear weapons? Probably not. And especially with Epic Fury going on and all the hardships going on, they probably say, get rid of the damn things. In fact,
Right.
I bet you 80%, I would bet
Yeah.
75 to 80% of the Iranian people would say, get rid of them.
Right.
Let's have peace. Let's have peace and prosperity. But that's just not happening. Now I'll say something else, that if Iran were to have nuclear weapons, what causes me the most concern? I don't think I'm that concerned about them attacking Israel so much, because they realize that Israel probably has anywhere from
Yes.
120 to 150 nuclear weapons
Yes.
and would wipe Iran off the map.
Right.
No, my real concern about Iran having nuclear weapons is that will set off what I call a nuclear pandemic in the Middle
Yes.
East.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the Saudis, the Emiratis, the Turks, the Egyptians, everybody would say, if the Iranians have nuclear weapons, we've got to have them too. So then you would have a situation where a very volatile part of the world, very unstable, volatile part of the world, all of these nations are armed with nuclear weapons, and that means that the chances of a nuclear exchange would
Much
go up
higher.
logarithmically. Would just so that's the biggest fear, more than just Iran having the weapons by themselves.
So, you'd mentioned in our email today that you weren't surprised that the one thing that would reportedly was the one thing Iran would not change on is the is nuclear weapons program. Basically, they're always going to try to have nuclear weapons, and they're not going to stop until they have one. Is that what you believe?
Well, until we, yeah, until that regime falls, yeah.
Right.
And you have to remember, by the way, that the Islamic regime is not the first one to have a nuclear reactor. It was the Shah. The Shah had a nuclear reactor. We actually helped build a part of their nuclear reactor back in the 50s. We had an Atoms for Peace program.
Mm.
Well, that didn't go very well. So
but they first of all, most countries in the world don't even enrich you on uranium. They import enriched uranium
that's
for the
correct.
purposes of their nuclear reactor. So Iran doesn't have to. I think something like 13 countries is a number I recall. Either that they order it in, or that only 13 countries make it. Something like that. There's no reason to have any enrichment at all. There's
No,
no lack
no,
of
there isn't.
right.
They've got the Bushehr nuclear plant. They need fuel for it, but they would say fairly that the international treaties and everything grant them a right to enrich uranium up to the amount for a nuclear power plant. But let me make a distinction between 60%
Right.
and what
Two.
they need for a nuclear power plant, which is about 3.5%
Right.
light enriched
Right.
uranium.
Right.
So the only reason you want 60% is because you're headed towards 85 or 90%. That's
So
the
that you have a
only
nuclear weapon.
reason. Yeah. Or one other thing, if you had nuclear submarines, and I don't think Iran has any nuclear
No,
submarines.
they're lucky if they have any submarines, especially
Right.
after all they get getting hit. How fast would so basically they're weeks away from being able to, if they didn't get hit, from being able to enrich the uranium to pure whatever weapons grade 80, 85, 90. And then also then the next part comes that Iran needs a way to deliver the mechanism. Before I ask you about that, can't they take some of the material they have now if they had access to it? You know what I'm saying? Can't they take it, make a dirty bomb, and take it to a harbor in New York City and blow it up on a boat, and then it would be uninhabitable for God knows how long?
Well, yeah, I mean, dirty bombs though,
Yeah.
that's kind of a desperation thing. It's just limited, maybe for a mile or two. It would
Okay.
have limited. Yeah, it'd be devastating. Be a huge remediation effort, very costly. But
How
dirty
how long would
bombs don't scare me as much as the others.
That's okay. Now, see, that's interesting. But how long would it be uninhabitable for? I know it depends on the nature of the bomb and stuff. But if you're talking your average run of the mill dirty bomb that was blown up, would it be like uninhabitable for as if a nuclear bomb actually hit, where it's like what 50 years or something, or how does that work?
Well, I think that's hard to say. I know Chernobyl, people are starting to go back into the Chernobyl area. So, and people, by the way, Hiroshima, people walk around Hiroshima now.
Yeah, yeah.
It has recovered. It all depends on how close it is. I mean, an airburst, how much of the dirt it irradiates and things like that. So that's really almost an impossible question to answer.
Okay.
But I think, I don't fear the dirty bomb as much as I do a low yield nuclear device, something that would produce, the so-called mushroom cloud. That that's pretty scary.
How
But
soon could they put that on a how soon could Iran have been able to or assuming they could still do this now, like assuming let's say we didn't hit them, how soon could they, do you believe they could make it deliverable on a ICBM, international continental ballistic missile or
Well, the
something?
way they were headed, if let's say we had not launched the attack last June,
Yeah.
or what we're doing now, I think they were getting pretty darn close to within weeks. Now, it's not just having the material. You also have to have a working design, which we know they've got, and you have to have the technical expertise to put it together. And it's not a real simple formula for putting this. You can't, you can have the material. You've got to take it from a gaseous form back down to solid metal, and that's called a desublimer. You've probably heard of the verb to sublime, going from
Hmm.
maybe a liquid to or a solid to a gas. Well, you go from a gas to a solid. You don't even go through a liquid stage. It's called desublimation. But anyways, making it into uranium metal and then shaping that in the form and having the right kind of design. We know they have the designs, but that's several months, and they have to have the expertise. So I'm going to comment about what I think was the most serious damage that was done to the Iranian nuclear program. It wasn't that we destroyed a lot of centrifuges or that we buried that uranium hexafluoride, that highly enriched uranium. And this is going to sound harsh, but it's actually true.
Wait.
The
Can I
most
guess?
serious.
Can I guess
Go ahead.
that we killed their scientists?
That's exactly right. You can rebuild a centrifuge. You can't rebuild a scientist. I mean, and I know that sounds harsh, but
No,
the Israelis assassinated 13 nuclear scientists and I think some of their families. Now, let's imagine, Chris, if you were a young Iranian nuclear scientist, you might think, I think I'd rather study Persian poetry than
I'll study
nuclear
botany.
science.
I'll study
I'm
botany.
right. You talk about a disincentive. I mean, literally, by killing those scientists, they wiped out. The other people can't build bombs. They're talking about, and then 2 years ago they had that machine gun attack against the head of the program.
Yeah.
It was a robotic machine gun attack, and now they've killed 13 of these guys, and that to me is the most serious damage that has been done to the Iranian nuclear program, is taking out the intellectual quotient, just taking that out, because just I mean, I worked against these nuclear weapons for a long time. I would have no clue as to how to build one. I mean, I can tell you in general principles, but just because I was around them doesn't mean I
Does
could
it? Yeah.
build one.
So somebody here, a couple things. The JCPOA was to me a disgrace and a joke, and look what they got. They got enriched uranium to the point where they're ready to just have a nuclear weapon practically, and practically have it deliverable. So that was a disgrace, in my opinion. How feckless was this? And let me tie it into this. Somebody had to do what Trump is doing now. And it may not be now, it may have been in 5 years or 4 years, but eventually this had to be done. So, do you believe that the JCPOA was bad, and why? And number two, somebody had to do this, correct? At some point, take out the nuclear program.
Well, that's a good question, Chris. Back when the JCPOA, that's the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. That's a mouthful. They
Right.
probably paid some consultant several million
Yes.
dollars to come up with that.
Yes.
But anyways, back when they were doing that, the idea for my novel, Living Lies, that you mentioned earlier on the program, I was talking to my good friend Rolf Moat Larson, who was basically he was the director of intelligence and counterintelligence at DOE when I was working there and when your dad was in Chicago working for us. And I said to Rolf, I said, well, this is a great plan or a great program, but what if they cheat? And that's what led to my novel, which is that, basically they lure the United States into negotiations. They basically concede all of this stuff about their program, except they have a secret program somewhere. And centrifuge facilities can be very small. I mean, we're talking about maybe, especially if you put them underground, which they do, you're talking about a very small footprint. And really the real weakness is the nuclear scientists themselves.
Mm.
So no, I was not a big fan of the JCPOA, and then we found out, thanks to Mossad, we found out that they had advanced plans for nuclear weapons and things. So I'm not shedding any tears over destroying the Iranian nuclear weapons program. I'm really not. My real my real heart goes out, though, to the Iranian people. I think
Yes.
75, 80% of the people in Iran would love to see this regime fall.
Yes.
And and I know a lot of ethnic Iranians who live in the United States, and these are highly educated, very
Yes.
industrious, very, very really great people, and they
Yes.
grieve for their country. They really do grieve for the country, and the fact that the Islamic regime has been like a foot on their stamping on their face since 1979.
Yes.
It's been terrible.
What about the thought that somebody had to do this? I mean, everybody, every president for decades and decades has said there's no way they can have a nuclear weapon. They can't. They can't. And finally, somebody attacked this president. Do you agree that somebody had to do this eventually?
Yeah, regrettably, I hate to say that, but I think yeah, it was good. I last June I was saying this is good, that this is
Okay.
happening, and even people who may be against this current administration admitted this is probably a good thing.
I
So
want everybody to take.
I'm not going to expand that approval to what's going on now, but because I don't think there's a real after plan, on how do
I
we
want
get
to
out
ask you
of
about
this?
that. Yeah, I want to ask you
Yeah.
about that. So basically, I want everybody to know that the man whose team you led the team that took down the AQCon network selling nuclear secrets to people to regimes like Iran and Gaddafi. That you agree this had to be done. Somebody had to do this because there's no stopping point. If you don't stop it, and eventually they've got it, and then it's over. So and so that's a real important thing. And then now let's talk about what you're saying about you don't like the way things are going right now. I don't either. I know a lot of people don't like this at all. This war. My camp, the conservative camp, which they think that Israel's controlling everything. That's something we won't get into tonight because that's not your wheelhouse. But as far as I think we need to finish the job. And I don't think the job's done. And I think the Iranian people need to be able to have a chance to overthrow their government. I think that somehow they need to get arms. Obviously, we don't want to pick people that we do. By the way, this is not the Mujahideen. We're not arming Afghanistan people that will become terrorists and Al Qaeda and come kill us. That's not the case. So tell me your thoughts on that. On how this job needs to be finished arming the people. Will they be able to overthrow their government? Or are we going to just leave this regime in power, which is going to lead to more attempts for nuclear proliferation, etc.?
I mean, right now, if we left right now, we're just leaving an enraged regime,
Right,
the 10, 20% of the people, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the Basij. These people well, they're not all religious fundamentalists. A lot of them are just opportunists, but still, they're in power. And if we leave now, you know, uh, former Secretary of State Colin Powell used to say the pottery barn rule: if you break it, it's yours,
right,
and you've got to take it. So, I mean, we can't just back out and say mission accomplished. And I'm afraid that there's going to be a temptation to just
right.
leave it. And that, to me, you know, uh, I, that's not going to work. We need to. I would be in favor, actually, of arming some groups in different parts of Iran to try and topple the regime. I
I
know.
thought that. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that would be fine. Maybe we're already doing that. I hope we're doing
Yes.
something like that.
Do you think Reza Pahlavi is actually who everybody wants, or are we being told that's who everybody wants?
He's a figurehead, and I don't know. I mean, I have nothing against the guy,
Right,
but I don't know that he's the George Washington of Iran. I really don't.
right. And they're saying
I
that he
think a
could be in there
lot.
for. Yeah,
I think a lot of the Iranian people are going around saying what a great guy he is just because it irritates the current regime, and they don't. No, sure, that's right,
yeah. I don't
and they don't
doubt
have
you.
anybody else. They don't have anybody else that they can pin their hopes to. He might be fine as maybe as a transition uh,
Right, that's what
figure.
I've heard.
I think that's what he's even saying, that he would be a
Yes,
transition figure.
60, 90 days, 120 days. Um,
Whatever.
so if you can arm these folks, they would overthrow their own government, obviously, wouldn't they? And number two, the Kurds, supposedly we were arming them to get the arms into Iran to help attack. I don't know where that stands, but what are your further
We have a
thoughts on that?
sad we have a sad history with the Kurds. They're some of our best allies in the Middle East, and it seems like we repeatedly disappoint them
Right,
and pull away from them. And yet they really are some of our staunchest allies. So I would be all in favor of doing whatever we could with the Kurds or any of these other minority groups or just the ethnic Iranians. I mean, like I said, I bet you 75% of the people in Iran can't stand this regime.
right.
So, the ones that are invested are the ones that are, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the Basij. some of a few of the fundamentalists. They like to, by the way, they love to talk about their devotion to Islam and things. In fact, a lot of them are total hypocrites on that. So,
I'm not surprised at all. Jim Lawler, a couple more questions. I mean, your book, I want to talk to you about Living Lies, the latest novel of your three, The Traitor's Tale, In the Twinkling of an Eye, and Living Lies. Just Google his name's right up there on the screen. James Lawler, book on Amazon, and get it. It's going to be fantastic. Let me ask you a few other questions. I mean, as far as Iran, I don't know if there's anything else I wanted to ask you. I mean, how do you see this playing out? Before we wrap this up, and I want to ask you some spy questions, since you recruited spies and you outed spies. How do you see this playing out right now? And how
well,
do
I
you want
had
to see it?
hopes.
Yeah.
Well, I had hopes going into this weekend that both sides would be reasonable, and I've not been a big fan of Vice President Vance, but I thought maybe it was a smart idea to send somebody who is skeptical of us going into Iran to begin with as
He was.
their interlocutor, and to go in there. And I just wish the Iranians were more pliable because it's not in their interest, definitely not in their interest. Right now, the president has just declared a blockade of the
Mm-hmm.
entire of Iran and the entire
Right.
Strait of Hormuz.
Right.
So, which I think actually that's smarter, by the way, of doing that than in trying to go in and do the mine clearing and having people shoot at you. Just put up a blockade and say nobody's
Right.
getting through, and see if that brings them back to the negotiating table. But we have to be reasonable. We have to give them some concessions. The nuclear wild card is one that I would say that's the one we're not compromising on. We will supply you with light enriched uranium
Right.
for your nuclear power plants.
And we offered that.
And
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
well we should offer that. That's fine.
Right.
So that takes away their need to enrich uranium.
But they still don't want to stop that, as you know. I'm glad they walked out after 21 hours, because all Iran, in addition to nuclear attempts at proliferation, the other thing they're really, really good at is dragging things out for years and years and years, pretending they're trying to negotiate when they don't, right? I mean, so I'm glad
Yeah,
they
and
left. We left.
you're going to hopefully have an expert colleague of mine, Mark Fowler, on your program
Yes.
soon, and he's dealt with these people for years and years, and that's exactly his point.
Good. Yeah, I'm going to have mine. You wrote a column in the Post today, which I appreciated you sharing that with me. In fact, on that, he talked about that. Let me just say, do you want us to continue to negotiate, or do you want us to finish the job if we had a choice between one of those two? And because I want to finish the job, get them out of there,
Well,
end them.
I actually, Winston Churchill had a saying that it's better to jaw than to war. So if we can talk and ratchet down everybody's temper and reach some kind of reasonable solution, that's fine. But I would love to see us topple the regime because otherwise it's going to be an irritant there forever.
Yes.
But I don't know, maybe buy some time. Um,
Um, we also have play out where we're at right now. Play out how you see this playing out as far as the war and such. I mean, to me, I think that right now it seems like we're going to leave the regime in charge and pretend like it's another Delcy Rodriguez. There's no such thing as a Delcy Rodriguez of Venezuela situation because they are not Venezuela. I mean, the radical Islamists who will blow themselves up to achieve their mission. And let me add this too. You correct me if I'm wrong, but people don't realize this. The 9/11 report said that Iran provided safe haven for the terrorists that killed us in 9/11, and safe passage, I should say, and helped them get documents and passports to move through to come kill us in 9/11. Number two, my understanding is, as you know, we killed Osama bin Laden, then we killed Ayman al-Zawahiri, the second in charge, and now there's number three, and number three, I don't know his name, but he's living in Iran, is my understanding, as well as Osama bin Laden's son, the heir apparent. These people also bombed the embassies, right, in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, the USS Cole, the Marine barracks with 240 million Marines. So go ahead and share that and add in the play out thing. I'm adding a lot of questions for you.
Well, okay, so you're right. The number three Al Qaeda guy, his name is Saif al Adil, and he's living in Iran. He actually is a mastermind. He's probably the smartest of all of them. And so I think one of our conditions should be you need to give us this guy.
Hmm.
He was a former Egyptian military officer and brilliant. He's dangerous. He's so smart. And yeah, they have been supporting a lot of terrorist groups and insurgent groups around the world that have killed a lot of U.S. lives. Absolutely. Uh, I I don't know how much support they gave to Al Qaeda, but yeah, they're harboring these people. So yeah, they've got to give these people up.
Yeah, and then basically on the play out mode, play out stuff like play this out. It's hard to say how it's going to play out because you don't know what President Trump's going to do today, tomorrow, the next day, or how things could go, etc. But unfortunately, as of right now, I see him leaving in the regime and pretending like it was a victory. And to me, it's almost like other than striking the nuclear stuff and killing the scientists, it's almost like we maybe shouldn't have done it if we leave them in power.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point, Chris. I'm starting to feel that way too. I hope we have something to show for all our effort and for the 13 American lives we've lost and the billions of dollars we've been spending doing this. We're running down our stockpiles of weapons
Yeah,
dramatically, and this hurts our aid to Ukraine, which is another place that's near and dear to my heart, which we should be supporting. But everything we're using in the Middle East means something less that we can supply to Ukraine. By the way, a shout out for the Ukrainians. They've actually come to our aid and told us how to
drones.
anti-drone
Yeah.
defenses. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a whole new world. By the way, here's a little something from the Daily Mail today. Why many believe the mission to rescue this is funny. But here, why many believe the mission to rescue the downed airman? Remember, Dude 44, who we thank God we rescued him too. Dude 44 Bravo was really a smokescreen for an audacious attempt to snatch Iran's uranium. It's like a comedy headline, but the Daily Mail says that. Why many believe the mission to rescue downed airman Dude 44 Bravo was really a smokescreen for an audacious attempt to snatch Iran's uranium. What do you think about that? I think there's no way in hell that was going to happen there.
I think that's insane.
It's like a comedy line. It's a comedy
Yeah.
line. Okay, now, before we get into your book, I want to ask you this, Jim, and thanks for your time so far. Folks just joining us, Jim Lawler, retired CIA, Senior Intelligence Service, took down the AQCon network that was selling nuclear technology and weapons technology to not only any rogue nation that would do it, right? Iran sold it to them and to Gaddafi and his regime. Now, how about this? Let's do a little spy stuff. So, how do you recruit a spy? I know we're not going to sit here for an hour. Just give us a little insight. How do you recruit a spy?
Well, okay, so it takes a lot of patience, and you have to look for stress in people. You don't. I never once in my 25 years, and I recruited. I pitched probably 60 people, but you don't recruit happy people. You recruit unhappy people.
Mm,
So you look for stress, and that means you have to be a person that is curious, to ask about people, what their lives are like, to have a keen listening ability, to have a lot of empathy, to feel what they're feeling. Again, patience. One time it took me almost 10 years to recruit a source because he didn't have any problems in the first 9.5 years, and then his life fell apart. And then you have to be persistent and have literally focus. You have to be creative. You have to be a careful observer of stressors in people's lives. I used to be a rock climber, and the way you climb a rock is you look for the stress patterns, the crack patterns to put your feet, your foot, your toes, your hands, and things. And people are like that. Over time, you can find out what their psychological crack patterns are. Then you
and
have
maybe they have
to
a
be
maybe they have a gambling problem that you can help them with.
exactly. Well, that's the thing. Or things develop, things suddenly goes wrong in their life. One of my first sources that I recruited, I pitched him and he turned me down. And I took him out to dinner a week later to make sure he hadn't turned me in, reported
Yeah,
on me. And he asked me, the first words out of his mouth were, "Jim, was that offer you made me last week? Is that still good?" Because
nice.
his wife had announced for a divorce and he couldn't
Oh,
afford the alimony and put his two high school age boys through private schools unless he
wow.
accepted my offer. So
Also,
things change dramatically in people's lives.
like Eric Swalwell today, he resigns from Congress stunningly with all these allegations with women, horrible allegations. Leaves the gubernatorial race, and when he was one of the front runners or the front runner, he, as you know, slept with, according to all the reports, slept with Fang Fang, a Chinese spy, and then Fang Fang was reportedly allowed to, or brought in one of her subordinates in as an intern in his office. So he is apparently has a problem with women, obviously. And
Right.
to say it nicely, I believe these women, and I believe all this stuff, and I believe they all knew about this in his universe and his party, but didn't say anything until now. They're all, But that's a separate part. But here we go. He's a
Well,
guy who's
we have a saying that hormones trump gray matter every time.
so. Talk about him being vulnerable with apparently women. And so, Fang Fang got in there, and she is a Chinese spy. Didn't she leave the country before we could get her?
Something like that. Yeah, I remember. But I think Mr. Solo did the smart thing is to just resign. Obviously, if he was innocent of these charges, I mean, if I were innocent, I would fight to the end.
Right,
But
right.
uh,
But that's an example, though, of somebody who has a lot of information. I think he was on an Intel committee or something. It's
oh
like,
yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's insane to let somebody like that in that position. But, and then how do you catch a spy? We'll do the flip side on how do you recruit a spy. How do you catch a spy? And then after that,
So
we'll talk about your book.
so I'll quote a very famous Russian KGB officer, Viktor Cherkashin. He handled both Aldrich Ames and Robert Hansen, and his mantra was to catch a spy, you need to recruit a spy, meaning you need to recruit somebody on the other side that can say, you've got a problem and here's what the problem's name
Ah,
is, or all this other stuff. All of the other counterintelligence measures usually don't work. It's when we recruit somebody on the other side and they pinpoint for us, or at least narrow it down to here's where the problem is. It's this person, a mole inside of the organization.
so yeah. So for example, if you want to catch a Russian spy, the best way to do it would be to recruit somebody that's Russian that's in the field to help you ferret out the spies that could be
Right.
spying on you.
That's exactly it.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Now tell me about the latest book, Living Lies, Jim. What's it about, and what compelled you to want to write it?
Well, as I mentioned a little earlier, I was got this idea when we were going through the JCPOA, and I thought that if the Iranians wanted to cheat and had a secret program, then they would feed the U.S. a lot of information. 99% would be true. In fact, all of the information they would feed us through a double agent would be true.
Hmm.
But what they wouldn't be feeding us is the actual fact that they have a small secret program somewhere. And so, the U.S. negotiators are sitting there fat and happy thinking, oh, we're getting everything, we're making progress, and we're going to reduce or eliminate sanctions because the Iranians are declaring all of their sites. Well, they were declaring all but one site, and that one site was the secret site that's in this. And so in my book, there's a team of CIA and FBI who recruit some sources inside the nuclear program. And these sources are telling us the truth. And for a long time, the White House, or at least the senior parts of the agency, don't want to believe it because they thought this was all going just fine. Well, it's
Hmm.
not going fine. So it's kind of the reverse of the WMD situation in Iraq, where the administration really believed that Iraq had WMD and they didn't. Well, this time, the administration in my book doesn't believe there's a WMD program when in fact there really is. And you have the
Mm.
CIA and the FBI having to convince them that, yeah, in fact, there really is a program.
So, so that's Living Lies, and then you have also In the Twinkling of an Eye. Was that about North Korea?
That's about a Russian and North Korean plot to design a very devastating genetic weapon to use for assassination and for genocide. You can tailor a genetic weapon to where it would not only go against certain ethnic groups, let's say white Caucasians or whatever, or against if they got your DNA, Chris, they could do a designer weapon just against you, and it wouldn't hurt anybody else. So it could be a very sophisticated assassination tool. And so in that one, we've got an FBI agent, and she recruits a Russian spy, and they help bring down this program.
Yeah. So, it's some pretty scary stuff. Let me ask you this: what keeps you up at night?
Well, I
Besides your
think the fact,
insomnia.
no, I sleep pretty well. In fact,
Okay.
the reason I write these books is because I can't run operations anymore, so I live vicariously through my characters.
Okay.
And I'd say my books are 99%. The trade craft is about 99% true, and I don't cram into them things that are imaginary. I've used technology that we have now, but my real focus is on the human factor. It's not the spy toys. It's all the human factor. Why people commit espionage, why people do that. In fact, usually it's because they feel like they've been betrayed first. They've had something that has upset their lives, and that's how they psychologically justify the fact that they're committing treason.
Hmm.
They think, no, I'm not the traitor. They betrayed me first. And so all of
Interesting.
my novels have a focus on why people do this, and then the and how we handled how we recruit these people. And then I always make a point that the CIA will go to hell and back to protect its sources.
Yeah. Very interesting. All right. The latest book is Living Lies. And folks need to check it out. And it's, for example, one of your previous books. Oh, wait, no, Living Lies is number 38 on the list of 50 best spy novels ever written, actually. So that's pretty
That's
cool.
what some people say. Yeah, I
That's
was pleased with that
It's
rating.
very cool. So check it out. Just go to Amazon and look up James Lawler and buy his books. All three of them: Living Lies, In the Twinkling of an Eye, and The Traitor's Tale. Jim, thank you very much, and grateful for your service to this country, and grateful
Well,
for your
I,
time.
thank you for having me on your program. Please give my best regards to your dad, Don.
Yes. Oh, I will. I will. Thank you very much, Jim. You have a great night. All right, there he goes. And that was absolutely a lot of fun, and I'm grateful for him. Yeah, my dad worked in counterintelligence, and they worked together. Um, very very cool, very cool. And then his friend, as he was mentioning, another retired CIA guy, wrote a column today in the Washington Post about Iran, and I'll be talking to him in the very near future. We'll have him on too. Want to do this too before we have a lot of some other stuff with Trump today, with the Pope, with the delivery to the White House, the what's it called, DoorDash with McDonald's, Pope Leo and Trump going after each other. Oh, feral hogs sighted all around DFW, Swalwell, Tony Gonzalez resigning. All that in just a few moments. But first, real quickly, I want to tell you that this show is brought to you by IRSprob.com. That's IRSPROB.com, helping good people with IRS problems. Randy Martin has been my CPA for over 9 years. He's incredible and just a great guy. But here's the thing. Most importantly, he's an incredible CPA. He can help you if you have IRS problems. It happens to good people, and that's what they do. Helping good people with IRS problems, specializing in IRS controversy, IRS audits, and tax planning strategies. Reach out to Randy Martin right now by going to IRSprob.com, IRSPROB.com, or call 214-214-3000. That's 214-214-3000, and tell them Chris Crock sent you. The other cool thing I get to tell you about is Due West Foundation and Plumbing. This house, all the plumbing work for over 11 years has been done by Jim Dutton, the host of Texas Home Improvement. He owns Due West Foundation and Plumbing. If you want the best, call Due West. That's du-west.com, du-west.com, or call 972-406-0912, 972-406-0912. They do concrete leveling. They do root shields. They do home inspections for static testing. They do all my plumbing, and everything foundation. When they replaced 17 feet of plumbing underneath my house of my laundry line, the pipe went out. They had to put piers in there. You can't just dig the dirt, remove it, and then try to shove it back in there. It's not going to work. So if you want the best, call Due West. And don't use a separate plumbing and foundation company. Use people that do both. That's why you want Due West, because they'll blame each other. You don't want that. Call Due West. Call 972-406-0912, 972-406-0912, and tell them Chris Crock sent you. Okay. Let's get into this. Trump's quote-unquote blasphemous Jesus post. The idea that I should be freaking out and overreacting to it, and that it's highly offensive. First of all, let's see what he says, because this his defense is laughable. I mean, it's just absolutely laughable. Let's play it.
Mr. President, did you post that picture it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and it had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better. I make people a lot better.
Doctor! Does he look like a doctor there? He does not look like a doctor there. That is not a doctor. Oh, it's the funniest thing in the world. That is not a doctor. It is a Jesus-esque picture.
Mr. President,
Hold on. I'm going to pause it. But just look at that picture. That is not a doctor. That is not a doctor. That is... Jesus is the great physician, not Donald J. Trump. He deleted it apparently, but it's just so. I'm not mad about it. It's just classic Trump. And the first thing my son asked me today is, "What do you think about the Trump Jesus meme?" And I think it's classic Trump. Is it really appropriate? No, but am I offended? No, because it's him. It is what it is. People that get all nuts about this are people that don't like Trump. Or people that are holier than thou, which is not a Christ-like behavior. Holier than thou, crap doesn't stink, is Pharisees and the Sadducees who killed Jesus. So no, I'm not offended. Yeah, he probably shouldn't have done it, but what's really funny to me is his take right there. I'm a doctor. You're not a doctor. You're portraying Jesus there. You know what? Why doesn't he do a meme and a video of him dressed up like Muhammad? And then we'll see what happens. Trump criticizes Pope Leo and deletes AI image after backlash. This from the Wall Street Journal. Now he's going after Pope Leo, which I think he's right. He's right in what he's saying about him, but I wouldn't advise going after the Pope if you're the president. But he can also say it and criticize him in a way that's above the board, but he went a little too far. Here we go. Let's share this from the Wall Street Journal. Trump said, Pope Leo should get his act together as Pope, use common sense, stop catering to the radical left, all very true, and focus on being a great Pope, not a politician. Very true, although the Pope is a politician. Trump wrote in Sunday night social media post, it's hurting him very badly, and more importantly, it's hurting the Catholic Church. A lot of people in the Catholic Church, well, they really, really didn't like the previous Pope, radical socialist. But this guy's almost as bad. He is. And just because he's from Chicago, my hometown, doesn't mean anything. In response, the Pope vowed to continue to speak out against war, saying in response to Trump, I have no fear of the Trump administration. Of course you don't. You're the Pope. Oh, my gosh. I will not shy away. I love that they're in a pissing match. This is so. It's funny, I will not shy away from announcing. Again, what am I going to do? Get offended? I'm not Catholic, but even if I was, I wouldn't be offended. I will not shy away from announcing the message of the gospel and inviting all people to look for ways of building bridges of peace and reconciliation. Pope Leo said. The message. Oh, here we go. This is BS. The message of the gospel is very clear. Blessed are the peacemakers, and Trump is Pope Leo. Trump is a peacemaker. Trump is peace through strength. He is making peace by removing Nicolas Maduro, bringing peace and kicking out the terrorist training camps and terrorist bomb-making factories and drone-making factories in Venezuela that Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas were utilizing there. So he is making peace in the Caribbean, in Venezuela, and soon Cuba. He is bringing peace. He is bringing peace with Hamas and Israel and the ceasefire. He is bringing peace to the Middle East by what he's doing in Iran. He may not be doing it the best way he should, but he is bringing peace. He's not a war president. He is a peace president. And everybody knows that. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God, Pope Leo quotes, which is very true. But peacemakers, like police officers, have to shoot and kill people sometimes to protect and to be a peacemaker. Peacemakers do, in fact, kill, maim, and attack when they need to. And that's why Trump is a peacemaker. Let's continue on. Trump gets McDonald's DoorDash delivery at Oval Office on tax day. This is so great. This is, well, not today isn't tax day. It's the 15th, isn't it? Anyway, let's go to some of these great videos of Trump with the DoorDash lady. Here we go. I got a few different ones. Let's see where I'm at here. Okay, let's play this one.
I saved over $11,000 by not.
Hold on, that's a little bit too loud there. Let me cut that down a little bit, okay? Let's go back. And let me pull that volume down for you a little bit, okay? Boom. Here we go.
It definitely was. Well, yeah, I saved over $11,000 by not having to claim.
Was that surprising to you, actually?
It was very surprising. Very
It's a
surprising.
great big beautiful bill. And that doesn't include overtime in your case. This is only just based on what we did in terms of every other aspect of the tax bill, right?
Yes, sir.
So it was 11,000 saving.
Yes, sir.
Isn't that incredible? And that's what it is, the tax cut. It's really, we call it the great big beautiful bill. We should call it the great big beautiful tax cut bill because it's tremendous amounts of money. And that's overtime. That's also on Social Security, as you know.
Yes.
And it's pretty amazing.
Yes, it is.
Well, you're really nice. Would you like to do a little news conference with me with these people? These are not the nicest people. They're not nice like you, you know.
Hold on. Do you remember when he did his speech about the war and the Easter Bunny was standing next to him? Everybody's saying the new Secretary of War, Sec War, is the Easter Bunny. That is the funniest freaking picture or video in the world. He's giving a serious speech talking about, or a press conference or whatever, talking about the war, and here's the Easter Bunny standing next to him. I love that. That's the funniest thing of all time. This is a close second.
Right?
I'll do whatever you ask me to do, sir.
So the no tax on tips is something special, right?
It's very special.
And that's the one that really pertains to you more than anything else.
Yes, sir.
It's
Yes.
fantastic. It's such an honor to meet you. And I think you voted for me, do you think?
Maybe.
Yeah? I heard you're a great supporter.
So there's one part I didn't get in there where they're like, "What about a tip? What about a tip?" He's like, "Oh," and he reaches in there and he gave her two bills, probably two $100 bills. In fact, here we go. Before he reached in his pocket to whip out what appeared to be a $100 bill and hand it to her. Wait, Trump said before getting the tip, because the one of the press people said, "Are the White House good tippers?" That's great. Oh, by the way, Trump also said this about Pope Leo. This is so great. I got a little Pope Leo firing back at Trump, a little more coverage on this. Trump said Pope Leo is weak, all caps, on crime and terrible for foreign policy. He's right. Dallas wants your input on e-scooter and e-bike program updates after a massive ridership surge. I hate the scooters. I hate the e-scooters. I hate the e-bikes. I hate it when people leave them on the sidewalk everywhere. They trash it. I am so against this. We should have none of them. You have people that take it out for a ride and aren't good at riding the scooters. And one lady was going over, the trolley in downtown Dallas. You get the trolley. What is it called? The McKinney trolley or whatever. And somebody was coming around a corner and they went over the trolley tracks, one of them, and they fell and they got like a $100,000 doctor's bill. So also some people were. Are walking out of the front door in downtown, and they're getting hit by the scooters. People are pulling out, and they're getting hit by the scooters. Every day at my old job, I was coming out of there waiting for some idiot on a scooter to hit my car, and to not have insurance, and for me to have to pay for it on my own. Heck no. So Dallas wants your input on the shared dockless e-scooter and e-bike program. I can't tell you how many of those are left on the sidewalk, just thrown on the ground on the sidewalks. So they want temporary no-ride zones during special events, bicycle detours. They want to extend more hours. All of it is bad. I'm against all of it. Feral hog sightings in North Texas. Why? They're in neighborhoods. Now, this is for the Dallas Morning News. Let me tell you something. When I saw this, the first thing I thought about is, thank God I have an AR-15, because that's what you need to take down a feral hog. That is my understanding of what you need to take down a feral hog. So here's what's behind the sightings. Feral hogs, Dallas Morning News says, are among the most destructive invasive species in the United States, known to eat a wide range of plants and animals. By the way, their tusks are terribly sharp, and if you peeve them off or back them into a corner or get in between their piglets and them, they come for you, and they come for you hard. So you really need to know what you're doing if you're going to mess with them. I don't mess with them. I had never seen one up close. I have lots of friends who hunt them. A lot of us do. But with my AR-15, if there was a pig out there ripping stuff up in my neighborhood, I would seriously consider using it. You got to be careful though, because the only way to lawfully shoot, I'd have to look this up, but last time I checked, from some legal experts I had on my old show, which I need to have on this show, if you're protecting your pet, if a wild animal is attacking your pet, you can shoot it and kill it. Or if you fear imminent bodily injury to your pet or livestock, then you can pop it and drop it. So I guess what I have to do is I have to wait out in the middle of the night with my dog. And then when they came by, I was afraid that my pet was going to get attacked. Thankfully, they're not in my neighborhood yet. But here's what they say. Food sources and hogs are entering neighborhoods. Why? Food sources and accessible terrain. They often dig up lawns in search of grubs, worms, or plant roots. Well-watered yards and certain grass types can make home lawns especially attractive because they're easier to dig and more likely to contain food. Well, I just put the granules on my lawn to make sure no grubs are there or chinch bugs and that kind of stuff. I don't know if they like what I have is mostly St. Augustine. How much you want to bet they probably like that? And I have to water a lot, which I hate, so I guess I'm vulnerable. What residents can do. Officials say eliminating food sources is one of the most effective ways to reduce damage. Treat your lawns for grubs and limiting water overall. Are encounters dangerous? Yes, they are. Encounters with feral hogs can be alarming, but attacks are rare, according to one guy. Hogs are more likely to run away when approached. However, they can become aggressive if they feel threatened, especially if a person gets between a sow and her piglets. Eric Swalwell and Tony Gonzalez resigned. A twofer tonight, which is absolutely great. They resigned from Congress after the threat of expulsion votes. I'm very happy. Tony Gonzalez lied, and he lied, and he lied. And then we found out just last week that another woman, 4 years earlier, 2 or 3 or 4 years earlier, a separate woman, he also says he was doing the nasty pictures of himself and, sexually harassing her of some kind of a nature. So this dude's a pig, and I'm glad he's out. Speaking of pigs. So Tony Gonzalez quits after the Daily Mail exposes an affair with a staffer who set herself on fire, they said. Gonzalez resigned from office today, the same day Swalwell resigned from office. We got some Swalwell videos, which are going to be fun to watch together. Gonzalez announced his intention to resign, but then he said this: when Congress returns tomorrow, I will file my retirement from office. It has been a privilege to serve the great people of Texas. Get out. Get out, you perverted, sick bum, allegedly having multiple affairs on your wife. You sick man. One worker electrocuted, another in critical condition after an incident involving power lines in southern Fort Worth. Dude, I had on the Encore, one of the Encore guys. They go through insane training, and they have a checklist, and it seems like a checklist for dummies, but it's because if you forget one thing on this, do this, then do that, you can be killed. And 2 people, at least one electrocuted, another one in critical condition. The gloves are massively thick. The pants are rubber and massively thick. It's intense, the training they get, and there's so many things, and it's designed to make it stupid-proof. And the other problem is complacency. You do the same job as a lineman for all these years, and then one day you decide to cut a corner, and that's when you can die. It's quite a dangerous and potentially deadly field. Argument led to mass shooting at gender reveal party in Fort Worth. This is why you don't have gender reveal parties. Gender reveal parties are so stupid. There's no way you can get me to go to your gender reveal party, and if you did invite me and I cared about you, I would do everything I can to get out of it because they're so stupid. It is so stupid. And then, of course, this ends in a shooting. Argument over gun led to mass shooting at gender reveal party. Now, here, I want to know this: did they get the gender reveal out before the mass shooting happened? It doesn't say. One of the attendants told the shooter he needed to put his gun in the car due to numerous persons, including children, being present. The suspect became angry, made threats to shoot the person. He was then escorted out of the backyard. He then cocked his gun, pointed at one of the attendees, said that person feared for his life. The person responded by retrieving his handgun and exchanging gunfire. Wow. Apparently, the gender reveal was never made. Eric Swalwell, I plan to resign from Congress. And then, of course, he did today. Late today, he did resign from Congress. Let's look at some of the Swalwell's greatest hits. Here we go.
As I said, if you've just joined or you're came in late, Senator Adam Schiff, a friend, a partner, endorsing our campaign.
Well, first of all, let me say how proud I am to support you, Eric. And, before you got in the race, it was fully my intention to probably stay out of the race. A lot of friends are running. A lot of very, capable people are in this field who, I have great respect for. But there are a couple things that compelled me. One is that when you got in the race, here was somebody that I'd worked with for over a decade, who I had seen stand up to Donald Trump and stand up to all his MAGA allies, no matter what they threw at you, Eric. And they're attacking you again now because they fear that you'll be successful in this race, and they don't want a powerful person in the governor's office.
This is 6 weeks ago. You think he knew everything 6 weeks ago? Schiff, of course he did.
Once again, to stand up to this president.
We'll get through this. We're better than he is. And you often like to quote our colleague Elijah Cummings, the late Elijah Cummings, who would say, we are better than this. And that's just how I see our state, and that's how I see our country.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. During the first impeachment trial, and you did such a magnificent job in the second one, I made an appeal to my fellow senators that we could not leave a man like this in power. First of all, we had proven him guilty of what he was charged with, but this was somebody who couldn't tell the truth. He was just incapable of telling the truth. He did not know right from wrong, and he was fundamentally indecent.
Eric Swalwell is now apparently fundamentally indecent. And here they are saying that Trump is fundamentally indecent.
And it wasn't that the senators should remove him because he was indecent and he couldn't tell right from wrong and he couldn't tell the truth. And those things didn't matter all to him, but because they mattered to my colleagues, I appealed to them that he is not who you are. Well, sadly, there are plenty of them who I guess he is who they are.
Now, here's a nice little comment. Mr. Swalwell, I think this is from Breitbart, is dying by the same Me Too ethics standard he has long endorsed. When Brett Kavanaugh was the subject of unsupported accusations from his high school days, Swalwell said the Supreme Court nominee would have to be the single unluckiest person in the world for these people to conspire and make up lies against him. So turns out you are the pot calling the kettle black, and no one was assaulted by Justice Kavanaugh, as you know then and you know now. And then there's this. Eric Swalwell paid a illegal Brazilian live-in nanny under the table with campaign funds. If you see her picture, I think you can understand why. Very attractive young woman. So God knows what he was really doing there with that, too. Here is Humpty Dumpty. What's his name? I can't believe he still has a job again. What's this guy's name? It'll come to me in a second. Brian Stelter. And my impersonation of him is probably horrible, but it's Brian Stelter. Listen to this guy.
Yes, dramatic end of the weekend news in California.
That's not too bad.
And a real testament to the power of investigative reporting. Eric Swalwell ending his campaign for California governor just about 48 hours.
A real testament to the quality of reporting. You guys all knew about this for 10 years or so and said nothing about it. It's not a testament to reporting. It's a testament to all the cover-ups and you guys not reporting what you all widely knew.
After CNN and the San Francisco Chronicle both reported on allegations of sexual misconduct in his past. Taken together, the stories portrayed an abuse of power by the California congressman, who was, until Friday, a leading contender in the race to replace Gavin Newsom as governor.
All right. Well, there it is. And it's remarkable how quickly he fell. Tony Gonzalez should have gotten out a long time ago. Savannah Hernandez, who interviewed me, and I was in one of her frontline pieces she did that dropped several, like last week or the week before. She is, let's just watch this. This is her being attacked by the same man and the same man's family that she's praising. So Psaki has this guy in how he's awesome. He's fighting for the illegals. He's a great guy. And then shortly thereafter, the guy and his family are violently attacking Sarah Gonzalez yesterday in Minneapolis.
Chris now goes by the nickname Minnesota Angry Man, and he's using his newfound fame to encourage others to stand up for community, too. Ahead of nationwide strikes and protests tomorrow, we asked Chris if he had any words of wisdom to share, and here's what he had to say.
We need some peace and harmony in our state and across our country. We've been dealing with enough tyranny. We're done with that. We need some peace, love, and harmony. Please.
Let's go back when he talked about peace, love, and harmony, because we're about to see him again here. Hold on, watch.
We need some peace and harmony in our
there he
state
is right
and
there.
across our country.
There he is right there with peace and harmony, shoving a woman from behind.
We need some peace and harmony in our state and across our country. We've been dealing with enough tyranny.
Isn't that nice peace and harmony he did by shoving a woman from behind and knocking her on the ground?
We're done with that. We need some peace, love, and harmony. Please come out. Please show up. Get off that couch. If I can do it, you can do it. We can march. We can dance. We can sing. We can hug it out. We can swear at the sky.
From the couch to the streets, what a rallying cry there. Love to hear it.
Love to hear that. There he is, a very violent man, shoving women, attacking women, he and his family. So there you have it, another star from Jen Psaki. I will see you tomorrow on the Chris Crock Show or Crock Talk with Chris Crock podcast. This has been brought to you by IRSprob.com, helping good people with IRS problems, specializing in IRS controversy, IRS audits, and tax planning strategies. IRSprob.com. Randy Martin's my guy. He should be yours.